I'm Natasha Chilingarian.
I'm Michael Ogden. This is Shared Accounts with CU Time. Surprise! It's a special episode of Shared Accounts. We're doing something a bit different today. A bit more newsy, a bit more behind the scenes, a bit more inside the actor's studio-ish. What am I talking about? Well, you're going to find out right after the theme song. Welcome to Shared Accounts with CU Times. Hey kids, we have a special episode this week with the volume of news coming out in our industry since January. We thought it'd be a good idea to pause for a second, open up the mics and turn them around on us in the CU Times newsroom to talk about some of the big stories we've been following, what we're seeing, hearing, observing, thinking about, and share those things with you, our lovely audience and readers. You good with this, Ann?
I sure am. Sounds like fun. Yeah, let's do it.
Let's.
So, yeah, I think this will be a lot of fun. There's a lot going on. I think we can skip our regular what we've been watching segment.
Yep.
I know we do that, regularly, but look, we don't have time for that. We don't have time for watching mindless things right now. There's too much
Right.
happening. So, yeah, let's get right to it. So, for all our listeners, we have a very special guest joining us today. Joining us in the virtual studio is our senior reporter at CU Times, Peter Strozniak. Hey, Peter, welcome to the show for the first time.
Thank you, Natasha and Michael.
Yep.
Thanks for your invitation. And I want to send out a special hello to all the boys and girls in credit union land.
Nice.
Okay. So what's fun about this is, Peter, I can't think of one time I've ever heard you on mic or on, video or anything like that. Our readers mainly really just know you by your words and your reporting. And that's what I wanted to kind of do today, is kind of share our personalities with our listeners and how you are, Peter, because we adore you. And so I'm really glad you're on.
Well, thank you very much. And I'll try to improve my personality during the show.
No. We love you. We love you how you are.
Don't worry. This is where the filters come off when it happens with all our guests. But usually by the end of the interview, everyone's loosened up and we're like, oh, now we can keep going. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. So, Peter, real quickly here before we kind of get into the news, since this is our listeners' first time meeting you and hearing from you, can you just tell them where you're from, where you're based out of, and then also how long you've been with CU Times?
Well, I'm based in Cleveland, Ohio. Basically, I live in a suburb about 30 miles east of Cleveland in a township called Painesville Township. And I've been basically working from home here since 2001, although I think I started working for Credit Union Times as a freelancer because I was operating my own freelance business after 2001. And, I was doing pretty well. And Mark Rapport, who we all know, used to be the managing editor, and he hired me, and I was hired by Heather Anderson as a full-time reporter. I think I've been with Credit Union Times for 15 years, I think.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. I was thinking about it because I believe we started around the same time, or you may have started as a freelancer prior to when I did, because I started, and it's also coincidentally through Mark Rapport. So we both have Mark. Shout out to Mark.
Yeah, Mark.
Bringing us both on and getting us both involved here. And we're still here 15 years later, which is wild.
Yeah.
I became more of an official freelancer in 2011. So you were, I believe, already writing for CU Times, and then you came on full-time.
Wow.
Around the time it was like soon after I joined as managing editor as a full-time position. So, Wow, it has been a while, huh? We've seen lots of changes.
So we're going to do maybe a whole other episode about what the hell we've all seen in our lives here at CU Times. But I do want to point out that we are missing one person from our newsroom, Jim Duplessis. He happens to be on a much needed vacation right now. So we love him. We're not purposely leaving him out, but he's on vacation. We're leaving him alone. But Peter, with you here, we wanted to go through, we shared, we were talking yesterday during our newsroom meeting, just about a handful of big news items that we've been keeping an eye on. And I want to work our way through those fairly quickly to just, again, get our senses kind of shared with our readers, with our listeners about how we're thinking and feeling and covering these things. First up, the biggest topic I think right now in the industry is the NCUA. And they're getting hit from a number of legal angles right now. We'll get into the Harper Otska lawsuit in a second. But Peter, you brought up an interesting story you uncovered the other day about a former Edinburgh Federal Credit Union president and CEO, Jeff Moats. We've covered him before, but there's an interesting twist to this legal issue that's going on there. Can you kind of explain what you've covered?
Yeah. Jeffrey Moats was fired by the NCUA after they conserved it. And he took a big issue with that. And he basically took him to court several times. And he later dismissed those lawsuits. And then he filed this other lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of NCUA's administrative enforcement procedures. And he lost the federal lawsuit. The judge agreed to dismiss it. And then he appealed it. And to my surprise, because I really didn't think the appeals court in Louisiana was going to hear it, but they did.
Yeah.
And that was kind of surprising, I think, to anyone who's been, following this. And I wrote a preview story of it. We posted it earlier this week? On Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, on Tuesday, yeah.
And essentially, he believes that instead of his case being heard before, I think it's a 3-panel adjudicator NCUA panel, then it should be heard before a district court judge who would be more neutral.
Yeah.
And his constitutional rights would not be violated. He believes that his constitutional rights in regards to due process are being violated, and some other rights of his he claims are being violated by the NCUA.
And I think this is a good connection. The constitutionality issue is a really interesting connection to the Harper Otska lawsuit, who are also challenging the authority of the NCUA and the president, especially.
Oh, yeah.
I find this particularly interesting because what are we, Peter? Next week, I think, is the first set of oral arguments to be heard in the Harper Otska lawsuit in DC. Yeah, I think it's next Thursday as of this recording.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, have you, speaking of our history with this industry, I can't think of another moment where the NCUA has some constitutional crises happening. Can you?
Multiple ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there ever a time when there was even just one constitutional question there for NCUA? This is like two at the same time.
Good question.
So probably not. I think we're in a year of firsts for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right now.
Peter, what are your thoughts really quick on the Harper Otska thing and how that's playing out?
Well, it's really hard to say.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure if they're going to win the case or not, because there have been other challenges from other independent federal agencies that didn't win, as I understand it. So I'm not sure what their odds are of winning this case, but
I
know.
If they lose, they could appeal and go through the appeals process if they can do that. And I'm sure that if the Trump administration loses, then they're definitely going to appeal.
Oh, 100%.
No question in mind. They appeal everything.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to tell. And the other thing, too, is you have to remember I'm not a lawyer. So I don't know.
we understand.
I understand like general legal concepts and things like that, but
Right.
I'm not in the weeds type of legal mind where people can figure that sort of thing out.
Throw something out just related to that is, let's say they do lose and there's just no chance for them and they don't get reinstated on the board. And there's also no other new board members nominated, which at this point it doesn't look like there will be.
Right.
What are the bigger implications for the credit union industry? Because I know we've talked about with just having, Hoffman, essentially just one board member, things like big mergers, are they going to be held up with approvals? Things like that are really concerning. To me, it's odd. And then, just having one there, even, voting on a big issue, a new rule that might be, which will come up at some point.
It has to.
That's not very democratic, is it? I mean, So, I wonder, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
My thought is on this whole thing, I don't see, if they lose, I think, like Peter pointed out, there's already been rulings against other agencies in similar-ish legal fashion here. they could appeal. Their attorneys are working pro bono, by the way,
Yeah, that's really
and they
interesting.
won't explain why. Vast. But I don't know. There's nobody in the pipeline, as
No.
far as I know, in the Trump administration for potential nominations coming out. And I don't know. The NCUA is in legit limbo at the moment for doing anything significant. So I think it's in the best interest of the Trump administration to wrap up this lawsuit as quickly as it can so they can move on. But I don't know. That's just kind of a vibe I'm getting from people in DC.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, it can't go on forever. It can't just go on
Nope.
forever the way it's operating now, you would assume. But then again, I feel like some things will happen that in the past we would be just shocked by, think, oh, there's no way that can happen. And then it happens. And then you just slowly get used to it, like a new normal of a
Sure.
situation. So I feel
Yeah.
there's some of that potentially happening. But
So, and Peter, I'll ask, you check multiple times a day. I don't know if there have been any filings as of this recording today.
No, I checked about an hour ago and there's been no
Okay.
new filings. I really don't. I'm checking twice a day
Mm-hmm.
to see if there are any new filings. I don't suspect there will be. I think they're going to, have this court hearing next week. And I think that'll be very interesting. And we may want to tell our listeners that anyone can call in and listen to the oral arguments because that information is on the federal docket.
That's a really good idea, Peter. You know what? We should post that on LinkedIn or something,
yeah.
in our groups. That's a wonderful idea. See, people, this is how our newsroom discussions go. Peter comes up with a great idea and then we do it. So, yeah, that's what we're going to do. Okay, let's move on to a few more topics and blow through these. That was a big one. The other one I did want to bring up are credit union bank buys. Peter, you do some tremendous reporting in this venue. Your beats kind of cover a real breadth of different spaces here. Kind of lay out the land what you've been seeing so far this year. It seems like it's been a slower credit union bank buy year.
Well, you're exactly right, Michael. So far this year, from January to May, there have been only 7 credit union bank buy deals publicly announced. Last year at this time, there were 12.
Oh.
So that's considerable drop.
Yeah.
And last year at year's end, we had 23, which was a record number of.
Right.
And I guess there were some folks who are involved in this area of the industry, is that they were expecting to even break the 23 record from last year.
Mm-hmm.
And, every year is different, and I think this year may be different because of all the nonsense and everything that's going on about the uncertainty in the economy.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I were in the position of a credit union CEO, I'd maybe think twice before investing a lot of capital in a bank when I'm not too sure what's going to be happening with the economy, especially because I think a lot of credit unions that buy banks, of course, they get new members, right? Because they also get the customers from the bank to become members. That's one benefit. Another benefit, though, I think, is that they shore up their commercial portfolios.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's a big deal because commercial lending is highly profitable.
Yeah.
Or it can be if you've got a really good commercial banker, of course.
Sure.
And I'm sure that they work to keep the commercial bankers within the credit union realm and to keep growing.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that's part of it. I'm sure, though, there's probably a lot of credit union bank deals that are going on, negotiations that we never even hear of because they don't get to the point where they're ready to buy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what's going to happen with this. I think that maybe if there's more certainty that comes out of Washington and Wall Street, that it might change. I don't know.
I think you are correct in the observation about the economy really giving pause to a lot of things. We're seeing that in a number of different areas. Also, I do want to point out politically, the credit union bank buy issue was being used by the ICBA. And we'll talk about this in a few minutes about the credit union tax exemption. But that message appears to have been just completely ignored by lawmakers. They were really trying to make an issue out of it. And since I think they're really starting to potentially back off and change their message a bit, as far as things I want to complain about credit unions. But anyway, okay, I think that's a wonderful observation. I do want to move on just because we have about 10 minutes left here in our time. Natasha, you are in charge of our people
Correct.
reporting.
One of the things, that I'm in charge of.
Talk about what you've seen, because you can explain this better. Is it hugely been busy or just a desert out there?
Yeah, so I would say it's been as busy as it has been in previous years. I don't see it slowing down. And just to back up a second and kind of clarify what we mean is some of the press releases that come in from our credit unions and our media relations companies that represent credit unions. They do a lot of announcements about new hires, promotions, and also honors. There's lots of awards within the industry, and they get, awards like the top 40 people under 40 for a local region. And sometimes credit union professionals will get chosen for those awards from like local publications.
Yep.
And I collect them, and then we do 2 columns a week. So I write up, just kind of summarize all the announcements we get about the new hires and just any career moves or recognitions from credit union people from the prior week. So yeah, I would say it stayed steady. I mean, there's always lulls like around holidays when they don't really announce as many. I would say the volume hasn't really gone down, so that's good. They must be continuing to hire, and there's activity there. I would say, like, looking at the types of positions that I'm seeing, that are being filled, it's more of the operational kind of nuts and bolts positions at the credit union. So, for example, I would say starting in 2020 and probably for the next couple years, there were a lot of DEI related positions or like community liaison type positions being hired, created. Those have died. Those have dried up completely.
Yeah.
It's a lot of bigger, higher level. I'm seeing a lot of like the new chief technology officer, the general counsel, chief lending officer. And then even like lower level positions, a lot of like mortgage loan officers being hired, branch managers, but nothing like, I would say, in the areas of business that are like not as essential maybe, or not focused on. It's more of like the essential operational positions.
Okay.
If that makes sense. That's what I'm seeing.
And everybody, I want you all to realize one of the big reasons we do this people reporting from Natasha and why she spends so many hours putting these stories together. One, they do great. Our people read the hell out of them. They do very well. But two, what Natasha is saying right there, it's one of the best indications about what is happening in the industry is who's getting hired for what. And if you want to take a temperature of the industry, read those people columns. That's my advice.
Tuesday and Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern is when they go up. So
that's right.
Yeah, it is. And one more just note on that is quite a few people come from banks and move over to credit unions. There's quite a few of those. I find that interesting.
Ooh la la.
I know that's been a goal for a lot of credit unions, is pull them over from the dark side. So
yeah.
I see that, yeah.
All right, let's hit 2 more topics really quick. One, Peter, your fraud stories. Your fraud stories are an incredible part of our existence. I'll say it that way. People love your reporting on that. You're very well known for it. And recently you reported about one of the more bizarre stories coming out of Michigan. Can you kind of explain this story? It was the multi-million auto loan fraud scheme involved a guy who was kidnapped or said he was kidnapped.
Yeah, that was pretty bizarre. It was based on a criminal complaint. As far as I know, I don't think the suspect has been indicted yet. I'll have to double check that though. But, he apparently was involved in some car selling business with another person. And what was really bizarre is he was having some of his friends apply for these car loans. Yeah. And he managed to convince them to take out these car loans because he said he needed capital to fix up cars that he bought that he wanted to fix up and resell. Okay. And he promised them that after he sold them, they would make a pretty nice profit. Yeah. They would get a cut of the profits, right? So apparently he convinced them enough where several of his friends did take out these loans. And he said, apparently he indicated that he was going to take care of the payments. And when they were started to get letters from some of the credit unions and banks, why haven't you paid your monthly payments? And some of his friends started to get nervous and they contacted the
Oh,
FBI.
whoops.
And in the meantime, though, he kind of disappeared for weeks,
Yeah.
just out of the blue. And then he told his family he was kidnapped by the cartel and basically was gone. And they extorted money from him, where he apparently took some of the money and left it in a box somewhere,
Mhm.
and then they would come and pick it up. And the criminal complaint didn't really go into much more detail than that, because the investigative officer who looked into this didn't say whether that story he had any credibility or not.
Sure.
Right. Did he say this happened in the United States?
He didn't go into that much
What
detail. He
I
didn't
mean,
say,
cartels are usually
where he was kidnapped to, or where he was, or anything like
Oh,
that. Now,
wow.
again, the FBI investigator may have left out some
Sure.
details for whatever reason. I'm sure that after they write up these criminal complaints, they have a lawyer looking it
Oh,
over.
yeah.
I'm sure everything's legal, and what information to put in these criminal complaints, what information to leave out. So I'm going to be doing a follow-up on that story, because it is kind of
Oh, it is
bizarre.
bizarre.
I'm not sure if he made up this story. We don't know whether or not it's true.
Mhm.
And it just sounds like really bizarre. And then one day he just shows
Right.
up and
Right.
Two quick things. One, next time any of us are late to a meeting, it is appropriate to use, I'm sorry, I was kidnapped by a cartel.
I'm gonna say, great new excuse to have in under your belt.
Two, I want to ask you very quickly, Peter, can you explain why your fraud stories are so important?
well, it's the old saying, if it bleeds, it leads,
Sure. Well, sure.
I hate to be that blunt about it, but people say they don't like those type of stories, but they read them. And
Of course they do. Come
it's sort
on.
of like, like you're driving down the highway and there's this big accident,
Sure.
and people are always looking to see what the hell is this, and
Exactly.
they
Oh,
look.
yeah.
But I think more importantly, your reporting, and this is the feedback I've had from a lot of people over the years, it points out the red flags.
Right. And that's one of the reasons why I do it, because I think that I really deep dive into the
Yeah.
court documents and the police records to find out how the embezzlement or theft occurred.
Mhm.
So it would help, fraud folks in credit unions learn from it, and maybe even say, maybe we should do something in our credit union to make sure that this doesn't happen to us.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
So maybe it has some sort of usefulness to it too.
I think it really, really does, Peter. That's the feedback I've had, like
Mhm.
multiple
Yeah.
billions
We
of
do
times
appreciate
over the
those
years.
details, I
Yeah.
believe, and we love when you dig
Yeah.
in and talk about how the fraud started, how they perpetrated it, kind of the techniques they used, and I think
Right.
it's incredibly useful.
Or how it was detected. Yeah, and it was just it's just one of those things where when you read like the releases that come up from the U.S. Attorney's Office, a lot of them are really lacking. They don't
Mhm.
have that detail in it, so that's why I have to dive into these court documents.
One more quick topic I'm going to get just each of your thoughts on very briefly is the credit union tax exemption. And the question is this. So the House passed its version of the budget bill without any credit union tax stuff in it. America's Credit Unions, DCUC, others, they've been pushing back the leagues to make sure the tax exempt status stays intact. And it is in the House version. Currently, the Senate's putting together their version. Do you all think there's a likelihood of the credit union tax exempt status being removed at this point? Natasha.
I think there's still maybe a possibility, but it feels like it's like you've crossed the one big hurdle and you just have to make it to the finish line, but you shouldn't
Yeah.
celebrate yet. One thing, I believe it was DCUC made a comment. They said it is just like a drop in the bucket, but if they were to go back and look at all these little drops in the buckets and remove them, then there's still a concern. But the fact that it
Sure.
is just a drop is good, but it's also, well, maybe they are going to look at the little drops. So I don't
Mhm.
know. We'll see. But that's another huge. Yeah, I really can't imagine what we would be dealing with if it was, if they did lose the tax status. That would be
Sure.
really unbelievable and unprecedented. So
Mhm.
we're all hoping that it stays okay. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Peter, what do you think?
I don't think it's going to be removed. But wasn't there another? You're talking about that Community Bankers Association,
Yeah.
that they changed their argument to only reduce or eliminate the tax exemption for billion-dollar credit unions, right?
They may have adjusted that to 10 billion and
10
higher.
billion, okay. And so, maybe there's a risk of that happening. I don't know if they could do that legally and just leave the rest of the credit unions alone.
If the whole industry is a drop in the bucket, that part of the industry is half of a drop in the bucket. I mean, seriously. Peter, I'm kind of on your end, in covering it as I do. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it'd be a ridiculous move. But if the Trump administration is wanting to radically change the banking industry, and consolidating regulators and all of this would be a good time to get rid of that tax exemption. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's a interesting thought.
I have a lot of interesting thoughts, but mainly about movies. Okay, here are the last few questions. And Peter, this is a little bit about you, a little bit about Natasha and I. Peter, how many stories do you think you have filed since you've been in CU Times?
Oh, man, I have no idea. I know I try to file a story every day.
Yeah.
On some weeks, it may be more than one story a day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then think back to all the print, when we did our print issue, how many of those stories on top of the web stories. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. Would you say it's in the millions, or is it in the, I don't know. No. I'm a really bad number guesser, by the way. So don't take advice from me. I'm trying to throw you off by giving you my suggestions.
Yeah, I do have a number, but it's only what I can find on our site, which the archives kind of suck. It only goes back so far.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you want me to tell you the number I have?
Yeah, I'd be curious.
And this is just online, and it only goes back to 2012.
Okay.
4,890 stories.
Wow.
Huh. So no, Natasha, not a million.
I thought Peter was 200 years old. He existed for.
Peter just feels that way. He's getting there.
Yeah.
I'm getting there. Yeah.
Okay. So questions for all of us here. One, a very brief answer from each one. Why did we get into journalism? Peter, why did you?
Well, when I was growing up, my parents were voracious readers. I mean, they subscribed to every magazine and newspaper known to man. My living room looked like a periodical section at the local library.
Oh, wow.
And I just gravitated toward newspapers. I also was impressed by the way they always talked about what they read in the newspaper that evening or the next day, and how they talked about what they read in the newspaper with their friends during parties. I mean, I was just fascinated by that. And when you think about it, the newspapers were basically the World Wide Web at that time.
Absolutely.
And I also found out that when I was in grade school, I was pretty good at writing.
Yeah.
I could do it. And so it was something that I thought, if I can combine some of the writing with, reporting, I was always interested in journalism. Mm-hmm. And it was something that I found out in early college years that it was something that I could do reasonably well.
And you do.
Well, I appreciate
Great origin story. Natasha, why'd you get in?
I would say, I always enjoyed writing. Just since I was young, I just gravitated towards it and picked it up easily.
Yeah.
Since I was young. And I was just a lover of like the teen and women's magazines in let's say the 90s, early 2000s, 17, even the like Women's Day, or even just real kind of tabloidy kinds, like the First for Women was one, which I just heard they're folding, by the way. It's kind of interesting. I was like, oh,
I saw that.
A bunch of them are going away.
Yeah. They're laying off so many people right now. I saw that.
Yeah. Too bad.
And so I just decided that was going to be my major. And so I got into it, and I loved more of the lifestyle side of it. So I was at the college newspaper. My first job at the college newspaper was as the advice columnist. It was a little odd because I had no qualifications to be giving I was not a psychologist or an expert really in anything, but I was giving all this advice to people.
You were barely an adult.
And really, I do not want to go back and read those. I have no idea what I was saying.
I would love to read those.
So I don't know. I just always loved it. And I think on a deeper level, the sense of just knowing that you have this authority voice, like being able to
Yeah.
express your opinions in front of large groups of people, being able to
Mhm.
be the authority, express your thoughts, and maybe have influence in some way.
Yeah. Right.
And then just being a storyteller. I love telling other people's stories is always
Okay.
my favorite thing to do.
Very good. My answer, terrible at math, and I loved the speed of news, especially in radio. That's what hooked me. So that's my very short answer. Second question for you two. What's your favorite kind of story to work on? Peter?
I guess it would have to be the fraud stories.
Okay.
Nice.
I always wanted to know, just like, if I could sit down and interview these people that stole all this money,
Hmm.
you know, why they stole the money. Why did they do this? Especially like credit union CEOs and
Yeah.
other employees, and stealing all this money, some of them whom have stole lots of money over years.
Yeah.
And that just really blows my mind.
I
I just can't
agree.
get over how it boils my blood too.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that it's upsetting to the credit union too when they find out one of their own has been ripping them off.
Hmm.
But I always wanted to, maybe someday I'll be able to do that.
I think you and I, if you may recall this, Peter, years ago, you and I talked about doing a tour of prisons to interview these people. Do you remember this conversation?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because I think it'd be a fascinating series.
yeah,
The
But damn,
documentary.
if we don't have a travel budget.
I
yeah.
know, that is true.
Natasha, what's your favorite kind of story?
Well, I would say first, my favorite types of stories to follow from what you guys do and work on
Mm,
are definitely the fraud with Peter. I love this the
yeah.
psychology behind what prompted someone to do this, and we don't
Mhm.
really even get to find that out that often, but when we do, I find it fascinating.
But that fits with your true crime mind.
Right? Yeah,
You're a big true crime fan.
true crime junkie, of course. And then the bigs, I would have to say, like with Peter saying, if it bleeds, what was that saying? I'm sorry. If it
Leads.
If it bleeds, it
it
leads.
leads,
Yeah.
yes. A big scandal, just something big blowing up is, I would say, that's the most fun to
Great.
follow. Not necessarily for me to report on, because I'm more of a feature writer, and I like to write about the positive stuff and talk to
Mhm.
people when they have something really positive to share. I don't really enjoy, I guess, putting people on the spot to talk about something
Right.
uncomfortable. I don't know. That's just me. But the feature, as far as writing, yeah, feature
Mm.
stories about like professional development, how people got where they
Mhm.
are today, I find really interesting. Like the
Yeah.
weekly Q&A features we do, I really enjoy
Right.
hearing their background and what's motivated them and their approach to work and
Yeah.
career development. And also, I miss doing kind of the longer features for our print, which unfortunately went away a few years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Just about, like let's say a community development credit union and just backstories on how they've really helped members, how they've changed their lives, how they
Mhm.
help someone start a business. Love
Right.
all that stuff a lot. So that would be my favorite, I guess, to like work on personally.
Perfect answer. My favorite is anything breaking news. I love writing breaking news. Like just real short,
Mhm.
tight,
Mhm.
boom, put it out.
Yeah.
Last question for all of us, really quick. We've already gone over. Peter, what is your favorite journalism based movie?
I would say The Paper
Oh, good one.
starred Michael Keaton,
Yeah.
and I love Randy Quaid. I mean, he's just perfect for that story. The drunk journalist who doesn't
Mhm.
even read his own paper.
Too bad that guy turned into a legit lunatic.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think Glenn Close was the executive editor,
I think
and
you're right.
she
Yeah.
had this fight with Keaton in the press when the press was
Hmm.
rolling. It's it's
I think it's a great one.
yeah, it's a good one. Yeah.
Natasha, what's yours?
So I was going to say one, and then I just thought of something else as you two were talking there. I was going to say The Post from 2017
Oh,
I
yeah.
really enjoyed with Meryl Streep.
Hmm.
It took place in 71. It was about the Washington Post, their attempts to publish the Pentagon Papers.
Yeah.
Mm.
So that was a good one. I also like when there's a movie or even a TV show where like it's not the focus isn't on journalism, but there's an element of it in there. And one
Hmm.
that I thought of is interesting. It's going to sound crazy in the context of our conversation, but the series on Hulu, Pam and Tommy, about Pamela
Oh,
Anderson
my
and Tommy Lee, there
God.
was a whole
Yeah.
element at the LA Times where there was a woman saying, "We need to report
Sure.
on this. This is news," like the leak of
Uh,
the the sex tape.
The sex
And
tape.
how they were like, we're not covering that, like, no, this is actually has implications. Like, it was the beginning of the internet,
Yeah.
how they were getting their hands on the tape, and then
Yeah.
the privacy. I thought that was fascinating,
Yeah.
aside from just the trashiness of the whole topic and the thing,
But this,
just how there was conversations in that newsroom about
yeah.
that whole story and how they ended up finally like, yeah, I guess we need to report on this reluctantly. So things like
You
that
know
are
what? This all tracks for you. That's a great answer. My answer is 1987's Broadcast News with
okay.
William Hurt, Albert Brooks,
Oh
Holly
yeah,
Hunter. Love that movie.
yeah,
It,
that
it,
is a
it
great
gets a
one.
lot of stuff right, by how broadcast journalism worked, because it's a little bit before my time when I was in television and all of that. But damn, it is hilarious. It is such a great
Oh
movie.
yeah, yeah, it really is. I love the part where the smart producer, I forget his name, and William Hurt plays the anchor,
Yes.
and he says, "Yeah, they're gonna be moving me to cover the foreign beat."
Hmm.
And the producer says, "Really?" He said, "They're grooming you to take over the national anchor position, and you don't even know it."
Yeah. He was
I
a
mean, William
stupid,
Hurt,
good looking guy.
yeah, I mean, he just had no clue. He was totally
Mhm.
clueless.
I'm more of the Albert Brooks character.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
run very hot and I sweat a lot. Natasha knows this from our Luminaries shows.
It just like, yeah, can't
Yeah.
sit still. Yeah.
Yep. Real jittery. Okay. Peter, thank you so much for joining us. I know we've gone a bit over than we did, but I appreciate you and Natasha kind of coming in and having this newsroom discussion. Peter, again, we absolutely love you.
Thank you.
And what you do is just so
Thank you.
wonderful. That is it. So, Natasha, let's wrap this up.
Okay, let's wrap this up. Thank you so much, Peter. Again, like
Thanks,
Michael
thank
said,
you
we
guys.
love you. I think our listeners are going to have a blast hearing this particular
Uh-huh.
episode. So
I
I
love you
can't wait
guys
to
too.
get some
Thank
feedback.
you.
Speaking of that, to all of our listeners, thank you so much for downloading today's show. Please subscribe to Shared Accounts with CU Times in all of your normal podcast places, and please share the episodes with everyone you know, coworkers, friends, relatives, pets, you know the drill.
Former lovers,
Yeah,
everybody.
another category. Yeah.
Feel free to rate us 5 stars only, obviously. As always, thank you so much to our producer, Zach Nyeisel. Thanks, Zach. Join us again next week for a new episode of Shared Accounts with CU Times. Until then, thanks for listening.